We'll start with you, Trick, then we'll go to you, JC. Man, how far do your roots go back in the city of Memphis Rap, DJ Trick?
Man, I'm gonna tell you, I started out as a DJ, but my first experience to Memphis was actually I was in South Carolina and North Carolina. We were on a little tour. We were one of the opening acts for a big tour out there with Naughty by Nature, Queen Latifah, I think DOS Effects, Black Sheep. And man, I'm a young dude at the time. I think I'm like 18, 19. And I was opening up as the DJ for an R&B group, and I met a dude at that show that happened to be from Memphis named Lil Mac. And he was like, man, I'm finna get out the Army. I'm gonna be back in Memphis. We need to hook up and do some music. And I said, well, come on down. I got a studio, man. I'm about an hour out of Memphis. And that was my introduction to Memphis. Lilmac, Lil Mac. And, man, he came to the studio. We ended up just laying a couple of songs. He actually shopped them quicker than the R&B group was able to get something recorded, and ended up getting an independent deal out of New York, a small independent label up there called Lock Records. So it was kind of just an accident that I met Mac while he was in the Army at a show that we just happened to be opening up at, and that was the introduction. And then probably about 5 years later, and I been working with different artists in Memphis and started making beats, and my name was kind of floating around a little bit. But this dude shows up at the studio with the legend Lady J, which is from another Memphis underground artist that a lot of folk know about. And this dude walked in the studio, and it was King JC. And I was like, what the world? I had just bought the dude's tape at here at one of the stores in Memphis. I was like, man, another white dude that raps, There wasn't many. I didn't know of any. You know what I'm saying? So he walks in the studio with Lady J, and the rest is history. I think that's when JC actually laid down King's Day, which, what was that? What number was that, JC? 8?
8? Yeah, that was album number 8. Yep.
It was number 8 for JC, and that was my introduction, and that was 97, I think. Quote me if I'm wrong. But
that was in 97, Trig, when we hooked up. Yep, that's right.
Right. And so around that same time, my name was floating. I wasn't yet in Memphis. I was still in my little small town. I call it Ghost Town because ain't no red lights. Still ain't no red lights. And if you blink your eyes, you miss it. It's called Gaston. But man, work with some of everybody, man. Produce records for Al Capone. I was his DJ for a while. Did records for Endo G, a couple records for Tom Ski Mask, Mr. Ski. Man, you could keep going. But JC, man, JC was one of the unique artists that I met that just had a love for hip hop and was just a real humble dude, and we just like clicked. Like we knew each other for years, and we've been messing with each other musically for ever since then. So that's just a quick rundown. JC probably can do some more detail, but yeah, it's been a long ride, brother. But man, we back in the mix, man, and I never thought it would happen at my age. That's why I kind of slick changed my name to Pawpaw Fresh. Yeah, I was like, hey, DJ Trick is the beat maker. Yeah.
Well, that's evolution of and you guys are true musicians. I want to point that out too. Before we go on to you, JC, you guys are not only dope lyricists, but you also are phenomenal producers as well. You know, JC, when did you get your introduction in the Memphis rap scene?
Man, it was back late '93 is when I came to Memphis from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I was out in Albuquerque, and I was the first rapper out there doing anything as far as putting stuff out. And there just wasn't a scene out there. So I ended up moving to Memphis, and I wasn't sure what the scene was going to be like in Memphis, but there was a real heavy underground scene really starting to form. And there were a couple artists at that time who had went national. I know Gangsta Pat did, and if I'm not mistaken, Al Capone had something out nationally by then. And Ball and G just dropped Coming Out Hard when I got to Memphis. They just dropped it. So I got to Memphis, and man, it took a while for me to get plugged in, to get to know some folks. I would try to hustle and just get my name out there and just push my tapes that I had been making when I was in Albuquerque. And it was hard to get on, but man, eventually I was able to just get to know people, and I started putting underground tapes out in Memphis. So, yeah, around that late '93 time was when I was doing that.
So when you touched down, I mean, Paul and them was already with the Serial Killers, I believe. Squeaky, I imagine, was putting tapes out. But you were right there in the early phases. Man, what was the scene like, man? I mean, is everybody going out buying tapes? How were people reacting to this music coming out of Memphis at that time?
Man, it was a heavy DJ scene, a lot of nightclubs, and I mean hole-in-the-wall clubs. Now, you had 380 Bill, of course, you had Studio G, but you had these small hole-in-the-wall clubs where these DJs would go just rock out. I mean, man, it was like nothing I had ever seen. And people wanted to hear more from them, so we didn't really have our music in record stores at first. It was more the car stereo places, the Car Toys and Mr. Z's, Stereo One. Those were the places that sold our tapes first, even before the record stores did. And those were just underground tapes. They were cassette tapes with adhesive labels on them. Most of them didn't have covers. Every once in a while you would see somebody kind of draw a cover and they try to make a J-Card cover, but most of the tapes didn't have covers. And so you could go into Car Toys in Whitehaven and you could buy a tape for $5, maybe, if I remember correctly. It was so long ago, but yeah, you could get them for pretty cheap. But man, we would get tapes, bump them tapes, and then we were able to, as we would go into car stereo places, there'd be other rappers there bringing their tapes in, and so it was a good way to link up with each other and start to do some networking. And also the place that we pressed at was Stewart, H&W Distribution on Summer Ave. And Stewart pressed everybody's tapes in Memphis. If they were underground, local Memphis artists, Stewart was pressing the tapes. So we would meet up there a lot, and that's the way we would link up, exchange phone numbers. Then, you go over their studio, you jump in on a feature, they come into your spot. Just that's how we networked back then. But, man, the scene was crazy. Memphis was so unique. There was no sound anywhere in the country that came close to what the Memphis sound was. It was 100% original, just unique to Memphis. And so it was amazing being a part of that.
Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, like, comment, share. Also go over to UGSforLife.com, download the entire archive, and check out new episodes on Apple Podcasts and Blog Talk Radio.